Hello and welcome back to JKernifer Astrology. Today we're here to explore the new moon in Cancer happening on July 5th, 2024 at 6:57 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get ready for a wave of intense emotional transformation as the new moon in Cancer ushers in positive changes. Annually, the Cancer new moon, whether it happens in June or July, brings an opportunity to take the next step or a fresh start with something within your private or home life. Usually, this signifies a time to slow down, immediately following Gemini season's packed, busy social schedules. It's a time to turn inward, focus on oneself, and nurture loved ones, especially our mothers, sisters, daughters, and significant others who may be really going through it at this time. Depending on where you are in your soul's journey, the Cancer new moon serves to make us more aware of our dharma, our deepest aspirations, and our life path, and of our deepest needs for emotional security. The new moon in Cancer marks the third consecutive new moon featuring a conjunction to Venus. This is while Venus is in her superior conjunction to the Sun. This means that Venus is not visible from our Earth-based perspective, as Venus is conjuncting on the far side of the Sun, just out of view. The past couple months, while Venus has been transitioning from a morning star to an evening star, Venus has been resting, reflecting, and communing with the stars, and she will re-emerge in the sky as an evening star once she falls out of conjunction with the Sun. This happens a little bit closer to Leo season, July 22nd, July 23rd, once Venus is about 14 degrees separated from the Sun. This is a symbolic rebirth of Venus and all things that Venus represents. The divine feminine collective, our mothers, sisters, daughters, significant others, what we love, value, invest time or energy into, and the work that we do to earn money or resources. Venus is therefore of great significance under the Cancer new moon 2024, and we'll dig deeper in later on in the video. In 2024, the Cancer new moon will take place on July 15th at exactly 14 degrees 23 minutes, the constellation Cancer. This is exactly on top of fixed star Sirius, Alpha Canis Majoris, which is the brightest star in our night sky. It shines even brighter than our sun. This star is positioned in the neck of Canis Major, the great dog. Sirius has 2 times the diameter of our sun and is about 9 light years away. In this video, we'll explore the archetypal energies for the Cancer new moon, the fixed star Sirius, and the major chart patterns and aspects involved. July's astrology is a battle between light and dark, with light dominating the feud. The 2024 Cancer new moon, happening on fixed star Sirius, one of, if not the most spiritual stars in our galaxy, indicates that we're manifesting and setting intentions, cultivating new ideas that are aligned with divine protection and are therefore divinely protected. Annually, the Cancer new moon falls within Cancer season, which falls between June 20th or 21st until about July 20th or 21st, depending on whether or not it's a leap year. Since 2024 is a leap year, Cancer season falls from June 21st to July 21st this year, with Leo season beginning on July 22nd. The new moon phase occurs when the sun and moon are in the same part of the sky or universe, causing the moon to appear invisible from our Earth-based perspective. You can use these few days of darkness surrounding the new moon to focus on what you would like to bring into the light of consciousness and manifest. Monthly, this time is ideal for setting goals, intentions. A new moon in Cancer in the middle of 2 back-to-back full moons in the sign of Capricorn indicates that these intentions are focused on themes of maturation, independence, freedom, autonomy, especially emotional maturation, as we break free from unhealthy attachments and enmeshments with family that stifle our growth and independence. For balance, we can always look to the opposite or sister sign, Capricorn, where we have Ceres for balance. Capricorn affirmation for balance. I am self-assured, self-disciplined, and decisive. According to Greek mythology, Hercules battled the many-headed Hydra on the path to overcoming his narcissistic father Zeus. During this battle, Hera, Zeus's wife, but not Hercules' mother, sent a giant crab down during battle in an attempt to sabotage him, who she had long hated for him being the product of Zeus's never-ending infidelity. Hercules defeats the crab and Hera attempts to save it by placing it in the heavens as the constellation Cancer, or so the story goes. Cancer energy is symbolized by the crab, which can be seen in its glyph. The glyph depicts a sideways 69, which is said to represent the crab's claws, the human breasts, ruled by Cancer energy, and two fish swimming against one another, similar to the Pisces glyph. Other animals often associated with Cancer energy include the crayfish, lobster, and snapping turtle. These creatures all share common traits. They can all be considered marine or water animals with hard exoskeletons and a mythical tie to the underworld, mysticism, and immortality. No offense, Cancer. It's due to your moodiness, tendency to snap out after you allow resentment to bubble up for too long, and tendency to hold onto things physically, emotionally, and mentally for far longer than is necessary or healthy. More on that in a moment. The moon is in her sign of rulership in Cancer, heightening strong qualities of the moon: emotions, sensitivity, and changeability. This also heightens the best qualities of Cancer, including compassion, empathy, loyalty, imagination, tenacity, and protectiveness. Sun in Cancer indicates we are perceiving the world around us through our feelings rather than through logic. Gemini or Virgo. In shadow, watch for moodiness, possessiveness, and a tendency to not let go. When really imbalanced and stuck in shadow, this energy has the potential to manipulate others by instilling guilt to test their depth of care. Please also be on the lookout for relapses in addiction. Cancer energy and its opposite sign, Capricorn, are two signs that are particularly prone to alcoholism. We also have both Saturn and Neptune aligned in the final degrees of Pisces, stationing retrograde together within days of one another, leading up to the Cancer new moon. And Pisces is another sign that struggles with not only boundaries, but addiction, avoidance, and escapism. Addictions can be as insidious as alcohol or drugs, and as seemingly harmless as the dopamine chase we get from caffeine, medical marijuana, or even Adderall, which is essentially just a legal form of methamphetamine. The words lunatic and moody both come from root words that are tied to the moon. Lunatic comes from luna, Spanish for the moon, and moody comes from moon. The moon remains in a perpetual cycle of rebirth and renewal, both disappearing from view and reappearing from view monthly. She changes so fast, in fact, that her shape and resulting appearance changes daily. Her cycle is only 29.53 days, the exact same length as a healthy woman's menstrual cycle. Please don't get triggered by this if you are a woman watching and your cycles are not synced with the moon. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome at the onset of my first menses at age 13-14, and it was my path of holistic healing that ultimately led me to astrology. It took my body 2 years to detox from hormonal birth control to find some semblance of regularity in my cycles. If this speaks to you and you need guidance on your journey, feel free to send me an email. On top of all that I do to heal others in an emotional and spiritual way here on YouTube through astrology and tarot, I'm also a certified personal trainer who believes in balancing the whole body. Unresolved emotional pain and trauma manifests physically in the body through pain and illness, more often than not through our gut and through our skin. It took me several years, but I can confidently tell you that I put 6 autoimmune conditions into remission, where they remain, so long as I am self-disciplined with my lifestyle habits and with what I consume or put into my body. Cancer is a cardinal or initiating water sign whose emotions run deep. Cancer initiates with its outstanding compassion and empathy for others. Cancer's energy is deeply sensitive, both emotionally and intuitively. It's one of the most psychic signs. All the water signs carry deep intuitive and psychic abilities once you learn to tap into them. You can also email me if you would like help with that. Cancer energy has a deep need to care for and nurture others. So it makes sense that it's the natural ruler of the 4th house of one's natal astrology chart, the house of home and family, representing our most private nature, and combined with the 10th house directly opposite, the energy patterns of our maternal and paternal lineage that has been passed down by our ancestors for generations. This is why why our natal moon placement, along with any 4th or 10th house placements, tends to carry the energy of the one who mothered us, which is often, but not always, our mother. If you came from a childhood of divorce like mine, each parent was positioned in a situation where they were forced to figure out how to balance both roles of the nurturer and the disciplinarian, in the absence of a counterpart. The same can be said in same-sex or same-gender couples who have children. Typically, within this dynamic, there is one party who identifies as more of the nurturer and one party who identifies as more of the disciplinarian. Each and every one of you watching has both yin, feminine, and yang, masculine energy within you. I am feminine by appearance and biological sex, but absolutely have dominant masculine energy with all of this ambition and drive. My current partner, an equally beautiful biological male, has more dominant yin energy, and the balance we create together is beautiful. There's a deep association between Cancer energy and a mother or a parent's love. When we become pregnant or have a child, it sets off a series of tremendous ego deaths, because we now find ourselves positioned with the responsibility of protecting, nurturing, and fostering the independence of our child. We learn to live for something other than ourselves. This loss of ego is necessary to bring a healthy person into the world. In shadow, it can manifest as the parent who cannot relinquish control, despite their very best intentions. And the result is an overprotective helicopter parent who is too afraid to let their child be independent. Another shadow expression of Cancer energy can be seen in the parent whose love is so devoted that they allow it to completely consume them, losing themselves and damaging relationships along the way as a result of its exhausting intensity. Cancer should also watch out for boundaries, as it has a tendency to adopt strays, misfits, underdogs, and people who need fixing. My mom is a July 2nd Cancer sun, and she has a long history of taking in strays, whether those are litters of bunnies, squirrels, kittens, or puppies who need rehabilitation and rehoming. It is her most beautiful trait. When imbalanced, this can also include bringing strays into the home, like, say, a stray construction worker who mooches off of your wealth for a free place to live for 18 years, under the guise of a relationship. But don't feel too bad for her, though. It takes two to tango. She used him equally for free or cheap labor while building her real estate empire, so both benefited from the situation. The new moon in the sign of Cancer denotes feelings that may have been dormant in the realms of our unconscious psyches, symbolized by the underworld and Pluto, which come returning to us like a tide coming in with waves crashing on the shore, especially considering that this new moon happens in the 2nd decan of Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, but sub-ruled by Pluto. This energy will be familiar to anyone born during the heart of Cancer season, from about July 1st to July 11th. The strong influence of Pluto bestows a tremendous capacity for depth, intensity, and business management, similar to Scorpio. This decan of Cancer has a strong Scorpio flavor to it. If you were born during this decan of Cancer, or have prominent placements here, people are drawn to your empathy and sensitivity, and intuitively know that they can trust you with their deepest, darkest secrets. Back when I was working in corporate America with a side hustle at Whole Foods, deep in my workaholic era, strangers would come up to me all the time, and they would tell me their life story. Often, they would be embarrassed after the fact at having done so, and it's because I genuinely listen, and that's sadly quite rare. Life can be chaotic and turbulent sometimes, as the energy has been and will continue to be in the middle of 2 back-to-back Capricorn full moons, from June 21st to July 21st. Remember to rely on your exoskeleton during these times to protect you from the ocean's dangerous waters and turbulent tides. You are completely in your power to, at any point in time, stop, meditate, and regain center. Venus is co-present, featured by conjunction to this new moon, for the 3rd new moon in a row, beginning back with the Taurus new moon in May. So this has been building up for some time. Venus's co-presence, especially with the new moon on Sirius, a fixed star associated with Venusian energy and themes, adds more emphasis to the Cancer energy and influence. This is the 1st new moon after 2 consecutive new moons forming a very tight conjunction to Venus, where Venus is finally emerging from her superior conjunction to the Sun and a conjunction to Mercury. More on Mercury in a moment. Venus's superior conjunction to the Sun the past few months is symbolic of Persephone coming back from the underworld, world. After a period of reflection, she's taking this time to integrate all that she has learned, honoring change as she comes into greater wholeness. Venus has been resting, reflecting, and communing with the stars, and she will re-emerge in our sky as an evening star once she falls out of this conjunction to the sun. This is the symbolic rebirth of Venus and all things Venus rules. The divine feminine collective, our mothers, sisters, daughters, spouses, significant others, what we love, value, invest our time or energy into, and the work that we do to earn money or resources. When Venus reemerges, she will be in the sign of Leo, which is significant for several reasons. Venus is associated with the heart chakra and our center. And so is Leo energy. We will be coming from the heart with renewed passion, energy, and courage. This is all about how to be in right or balanced relationship with the self and others. We must first balance these internal forces within us if we are to manifest a balanced relationship. Venus in Leo prepares to face fixed star Regulus, the royal star, and the heart of the Leo constellation, which is fixed 28 degrees Leo. This is taking us back to the year prior, when we had our first Venus retrograde, to begin and end in the sign of Leo since the 1700s. I will plug that video here as an end card. For anyone who would like to rewind to Venus retrograde through Leo 2023 and review. But she covered the territory of 28 degrees to 12 degrees Leo, right on Regulus, the heart of the Leo constellation. We will be revisiting these points again in 2024, with both Venus and a Mars retrograde coming later in the year. All the important masculines in my life have Regulus heavily aspected. Both of my brothers have their Mars in Leo on Regulus, while my current partner has his Sun and Vertex point of fate and destiny on Regulus. My oldest brother was born with Mars direct, while my other brother, born second, 2 years later, has it retrograde. My current boyfriend also has Mars in Leo, slightly out of conjunction to Regulus though. Clearly, I know and like the energy. We will have a Mars retrograde through Leo later on in the year, beginning in December, revisiting these points. And this serves to shatter paradigms of the past, especially as it relates to shattering power dynamics between masculine and feminine energies that keep us in illusion and separation instead of union. I'll explore Mars a bit deeper in the Mars-Uranus conjunction chapter of the video. But Mars is the hero's journey, especially as the planetary ruler of the North Node in Aries. The effect of this upcoming conjunction is to increase our clarity through some sudden change or event, as Uranus guides Mars to see more clearly. This is about tapping into the inner fire, drive, or yang masculine energy within each of us, no matter how we identify. Yang energy is all about how we assert our presence and our energy in the world, and its source is the sun, associated with Leo. Mars has ties to the third chakra and the solar plexus, and so does Leo energy, our life force, our energy, our vitality, and our identity. These energies serve to help us shift out of trauma, exploitation, marginalization, victimhood, victim consciousness, and over the next few years, we are shifting out of separation, conflict, and competition, and into harmony, oneness, union, and peace. The Moon, Sun, and Venus in Cancer heightens our intuition, and it can bring hypnotic power through creative works. Venus, 22 degrees. 22 degrees is a master number considered to be an evil degree in degree theory. It is the kill or be killed degree. In some cases, it can indicate the death of a loved one that proves to be deeply transformative to us in some way. If you have placements at the 22nd degree, don't panic because this isn't always the case. If you have placements at the 22nd degree, let me know. Drop it in the comments if you feel comfortable. Death can be metaphorical, after all. We must allow the old parts of self to fall away if we are to evolve into who we are destined to become along our soul path or dharma. Depending on the sign, house, and how she's aspected within a person's natal astrology chart, Venus, 22 degrees, often indicates patterns of trauma and abuse experienced within interpersonal relationships and in the workplace. In the sign of Cancer, this could have a lot to do with our families and healing patterns of generational karma and trauma. Having this in conjunction with our new moon indicates that this is part of the deep reflection we're in as we envision a more harmonious, balanced future in the age of Aquarius. But first, we must shed the tired old limiting paradigms of the past that sought to keep us small, separated, and easier to control and manipulate. The Sabian symbol for 14 degrees Cancer rounds up to 15 degrees Cancer. We're reading from The Sabian Symbols, A Screen of Prophecy by Diane E. Roche. Cancer 15 degrees, a group of people who have overeaten and enjoyed it. We're on page 135 if you're following along. Satiety, satisfaction. This symbol speaks to man's enjoyment of the fruits of his labor, while at the same time cautioning against hoarding, gluttony, and overindulgence. The image of a group of people who have overeaten and enjoyed it dramatizes the fullness of a shared experience with others, but it also points to the necessity of using discretion and the inevitable consequences of overcompensating for a lack in one area by going overboard in another. This image also suggests that the individual who develops an inner richness of being will never feel empty and deprived, or try to make a present moment last forever out of fear of a barren tomorrow. This is bringing up a lot of overcoming lack mentality. At its highest, this symbol represents exceptional competence and a passion for life. On the negative, there can be a lack of self-control and a tendency to engage in excess. Today, the accent is on overindulgence. You may be inclined to overdo or go overboard in some manner today. Opportunity. Your greatest advantage lies in knowing when it's time to stop. Be moderate. Risk. Guard against living too fast or too hard out of a fear that time and things are running out. Don't be greedy. Stepping stones. Satiation, gratification, satisfaction, enjoyment, abundance, fullness, extravagance, luxury, overindulgence, gluttony, excess, indiscretion, hedonism, intemperance. Before we dive into the aspects involved and the other planets involved, I'd like to take a moment to deep dive into Sirius, fixed star Sirius. In almost every story I uncovered in my research regarding Sirius, it's a dog. In Homer's Iliad, Sirius is referred to as Orion's dog rising in autumn. Homer describes the star as follows: "And aging Priam was the first to see him, sparkling on the plain, bright as that star in autumn rising, whose unclouded rays shined out amid a throng of stars at dusk. The one they call Orion's dog, most brilliant, yes, but baleful as a sign. It brings great fever to frail men." Iliad, verse 1 through 5. I'd also like to note here, I don't have it prepared in my notes, but baleful as a sign, it brings great fever to frail men. Some of you might be under the weather right now. Sirius is nicknamed the fever bringer. Just thought I'd add that. In Greek mythology, Sirius is the loyal companion, dog of the hunter Orion. This is because Orion and Sirius appear to form a picture of a dog in the sky as they hunt Lepus, the hare, or the Timusian fox. Similarly, the ancient Romans situated Sirius in the constellation Canis Major, which translates from Latin for greater dog. In fact, the origin of the phrase, the dog days of summer, evoking summer days that are so miserably hot, like today in Philadelphia, I think we hit 95 degrees and the humidity was so thick you could cut it with a knife, where one can do nothing but lie around and rest, can be tied to fixed star Sirius. Originally, the phrase had nothing to do with dogs nor the laziness of summer. Instead, and this is a quote from National Geographic, instead, the dog days refer to Sirius, the brightest star in the constellation Canis Major, which means big dog in Latin, and is said to represent one of Orion's hunting dogs. To the Greeks and Romans, the dog days occurred around the time Sirius appears to rise alongside the sun, in late July, in the northern hemisphere. They believed the heat from the two stars combined is what made these days the hottest of the year, a period that could bring fever or even catastrophe. In 2024, the dog days span from July 3rd to August 11th. While this doesn't correlate everywhere across the globe, it does very much align with the weather I experience from my latitude and longitude here in the greater Philadelphia area. Keep in mind also that even fixed stars shift, ever so slightly due to the wobbling of the Earth, at least from our Earth-based perspective, which is what astrology is based on. This means that every 50 years or so, the sky and the location of the fixed stars will shift about 1 degree. Most indigenous American tribes refer to Sirius as the moon dog or coyote, while Far East Asians called it the celestial wolf. Sirius was important in ancient Phoenician and Egyptian cultures as well. The name Sirius is up for debate, believed to come from either Greek or Egyptian origin. In ancient Egyptian culture, Cyrus replaced Anubis, yet another dog figure, as the god of the underworld. So it's possible that the name Sirius came from Osiris. It's also thought to come from the Greek word for the brilliant one, or the scorching one, fever bringer. Sirius is believed to have associations with alienism, anarchism, and cultural memory, especially fabricated or false memories and beliefs that are passed down. People who have hard personal aspects with the fixed star Sirius within a 2.5 degree orb, myself included, tend to have some kind of identification with a lone wolf complex, whether it has shaped the personality of someone intimately close to them or been a theme in their own life path. People with hard personal astrological placements aspecting Sirius often feel like they are the black sheep in their family. It's aspecting my midheaven exactly, which falls at exactly 14 degrees Cancer. And I can say this pattern is not only true for my own life, but it's also true for my father's as well. Sirius falls on my father's descendant exactly. Is it any wonder I'm one of his descendants? This is especially true when Sirius is in hard aspect to the moon, such as in the Cancer new moon, which can have the effect of creating a sense of cultural alienation. Here are a few examples of how this can manifest. Being first-generation immigrants, being estranged from family in some way, existing as the outliers of society in some way or fashion. Many of my friends joke that I'm an alien sent from the future. I am an astrologer on YouTube, after all. In astrology, placements aspecting Sirius are said to bestow an ambitious nature with a grand outlook. When favorably aspected, this can bring luck in business, wealth, prosperity, and honors. Sirius conjunct the sun, such as in the Cancer new moon, and favorably aspected, is said to bring kingly preferment and can be found in the charts of various important people and personalities. This also brings preferment in sports, astrology, government affairs, and with dealing with the public. This is also true if Sirius is conjunct the ascendant. The ascendant and the midheaven are two very visible parts of the chart, so this will be especially true if it's conjunct the midheaven or the ascendant. Here are some famous people with Sirius conjunct their ascendant. Elon Musk, who also has Mercury present, Michael Jordan, Albert Einstein, Mark Wahlberg, Billy Joel, Judy Garland, Robert De Niro, and Steven Spielberg. Sirius conjunct the moon, such as in the Cancer new moon, and favorably aspected, brings beneficial changes to one's home and family, factoring in Venus's close proximity. This can bring beneficial changes in business and to our romantic relationships. The USA, born July 4th, 1776, aka the 4th of July, happy 4th of July to all who celebrate, has its natal sun conjunct Sirius. This will also be true for anyone born in the days surrounding the 4th of July, including my mother, born July 2nd in the 1950s. Her sun is conjunct Sirius, and her only daughter has her midheaven conjunct Sirius. If we rewind to the time leading up to and including the signing of the Declaration of Independence, when Pluto was last in Aquarius, by the way, one could say that the U.S. was built on anarchist histories and fabricated memories. USA is a place, at least at the time of its origin, not so much these days, where black sheep from all walks of life could come together into this great melting pot. This, in and of itself, is a Sirius star narrative. The Sirius promise is a promise that cultural alienation can turn into soft power. It's the ugly little duckling story. This is the story of the underdog experiencing injustice and adversity on the path to greatness and fame. It's a story about conquering one's pain by not only transmuting it, but by turning it into a cultural product or otherwise commercializing the self-narrative, such as through songwriting or writing, or perhaps here on YouTube. Sirius identifies with those who are marginalized. The USA, for example, especially at the time of its origin, sees itself as a positive integrating force on the global stage because it believes that it has the ability to pull together a band of outcasts and misfits. The USA sees itself as a refuge and a shelter for those who have been estranged from the rest of the world. But what happens when the USA can no longer support its own marginalized populations? The homeless, elderly, war veterans, drug addicts, children, and immigrants. American expansionism is possible because America is a place that no one can really claim root to or call home, aside from indigenous populations who do not believe that the land is something that can be owned in the first place. Dogs are said to be a colonial animal, originally brought to the Americans in the first wave after crossing from Siberia 9,000 years ago. Within the past 1,000 years, however, there have been at least 3 independent reintroductions of dogs. The first may have consisted of Arctic dogs that arrived with the Thule culture. This was about 1,000 years ago. Then, beginning in the 15th century, the Europeans brought a second wave of dogs that appear to have almost completely replaced those original indigenous dogs. Lastly, Siberian Huskies were introduced to the American Arctic during the Alaskan Gold Rush. As a result of these more recent introductions, the modern American dog population, and this is a quote, is largely derived from Eurasian breeds, and the closest known extant visage of the first American dogs now exists as a worldwide transmissible cancer. This is from The Evolutionary History of Dogs in the Americas by the National Library of Medicine. Sirius, as the dog star, is about settling, cultural belonging, and one's nationality or citizenship. The history of dog keeping evolved directly alongside settler colonialism. Dogs are seen as the loyal companion species of those who are fated to wander the world, attached to nothing. The cowboys and the dreamers who fall asleep with the sky. Separateness, isolation, and alienation is something that haunts Sirius people, whether this manifests as exceptionalism, marginalization, or a combination of both, such as the story of the underdog. And I say this to you as my father and I prepare to face our extended family for the first time in several years. He has been the black sheep from his family for divorcing my mother, who was a malignant female narcissist, very abusive toward him. His family, super religious, turned their backs on him instead of supporting him, not understanding that he was trying to navigate out of an abusive situation, but did not have the skills to communicate that with them. My mother's abuses continued onto her children, and I am now the black sheep within my own family as the only person who insists upon accountability for her woe is me manipulation and inability to take accountability or stay sober. It's imperative that Sirius people shake the feeling that they will never belong anywhere in life and learn to trust the universe and God, whatever you deem that to be. Often, Sirius natives feel as though they're stuck or trapped in a competitive or scarce environment in which everyone is always trying to get ahead and prove how they stand out from the crowd. Crabs in a bucket. Fortunately, these are the ideal conditions for fostering exceptionalism. Sirius people tend to be deeply attached to their ancestral origins and are naturally interested in investigating the histories that they themselves cannot remember. This investigation process is designed to bring Sirius natives into alignment with people who have mirroring histories of pain of their own. Once Sirius people investigate their ancestral histories of marginalization, their generational karma, with the purpose of overcoming said marginalization, they can become emperors and empresses within their own lives. How to work with Sirius. And right on cue, my dogs have entered the chat. Sirius ultimately seeks to realign us with other people, and it does so by first creating a sense of alienation. Like the first domesticated dogs that crossed over from Siberia, a place known for isolation, alienation, and excommunication, or exile, it's time to take our faithful companion and create memories that live in the future instead of the past. Anyone who has personal aspects to Sirius has a magical ability to remix and reimagine and even rewrite history. Sirius people know what happened in the past, even if they don't consciously know it. Ancestral problems and patterns of generational karma appear in the form of synchronicities and coincidences, if you believe in such a thing. When people inherit ancestral trauma, there are two impulses that we must overcome. One impulse is to die so that the histories of pain representing the struggles of our ancestors can finally be laid to rest and the soul is at peace. This impulse can make people falsely believe and feel as though they do not deserve to exist because they haven't suffered enough. They could also carry an unconscious belief that they must make some sort of ultimate sacrifice to deserve their existence in an oppressive world. Once we overcome these impulses, the second impulse arises. The second impulse is to do the opposite and survive almost in spite of that ancestral trauma and pain so that the memories of the ancestors can live on forever. When unconscious, this latter impulse can cause people to unconsciously relive the memories of these ancestors, the effect of which reproduces the same issues and patterns over and over again until we bring them into the light of consciousness, transmute them, and heal them once and for all. Osiris was shattered into many different pieces before being put back together. As a body, Osiris represents the social body or a cultural group. The disintegration of that social body is anarchism. Osiris is split open. Time itself doesn't exist. The past, the present, and future are all one. The thing to remember when dealing with Sirius and Cancer energy itself is to not get too stuck in the past. All memories are, in a way, false memories, and there is really no such thing as a true memory. All memories are memory worlds created through the lens of our individual perception. Because marginalization seeks to take away a person's power and ability to write their own story, we often live in memory worlds that are not even our own. If you've been neglecting family affairs or feel estranged from them in any way, this may be a sign to reconnect. If you've been neglecting self-care, there's an opportunity here to nurture and take better care of yourself. In the absence of a mother, many have had to learn to mother themselves. If your fears or insecurities have been holding you back from realizing your full potential, this is something for you to work on over the next 2 weeks and 6 months, until the Cancer full moon. Doing so may align you with your heart's desire. Honor both light and shadow, but bring the shadow into the light of consciousness, where it has no power to control you. I'm going to start exploring some of the aspects involved, but I want to first dive into Mercury and Vertex in Leo. So Mercury at this point, 5 degrees Leo, conjunct Vertex, the point of fate and destiny, begins to outpace the sun. But Mercury can only get so far before being pulled back by the sun during what's called Mercury retrograde, to align with the sun during a Mercury cazimi and to be reborn. This happens 3 or 4 times a year, depending on the year. Mercury always falls within one sign of the sun. In fact, Mercury can never be more than 28 degrees from the sun. As soon as it is, it's snapped back via Mercury retrograde for deep reflection into our communication and thought habits. With Jupiter and Gemini over the next 11 months, this is going to place extra emphasis and importance onto our Mercury retrogrades because Gemini is a Mercury-ruled sign. This would expand the energy and influence on a collective level, having Jupiter here. This is a great party trick for the astrology enthusiast who likes to guess placements, because once you know a person's sun sign, you know that their Mercury, ruling their mind and their communication, will be either in the same sign, the sign immediately preceding their sun sign, or the sign immediately following their sun sign. This is but one of my many tricks. Exacting days prior to and carrying us into the Cancer new moon 2024, Mercury conjunct Vertex in Leo is opposite Pluto retrograde in the early degrees of Aquarius. This is detective energy that brings penetrating insights, powerful information, interactions, and communication. It brings major revelations as secrets are revealed and people, especially rich, powerful, famous, wealthy, powerful people and rulers, Leo, are exposed for corruption. It can bring confrontations with 2 opposing forces facing off. Big news, especially covered in the media, with Jupiter and Gemini activated by the moon traveling through Gemini over fixed star Aldebaran. More on that in a few. in the days leading up to the new moon can have a powerful impact, and we'll see a huge collective draw toward the occult, astrology, and tarot. As souls awaken and dig deep into the corners of their souls and the internet for answers. I do offer private hourly sessions, one-to-one, or longer if needed, at an affordable rate, and I am willing to work with you on that rate. If you need any help navigating, send me an email to schedule for now, because the website is launching soon. Mercury in this position, especially in the sign of Leo, ruled by the Sun, is shining a light on Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, representing the depths of our psyches and illuminating what's been going on under the surface outside of the realm of consciousness. Mercury conjunct Vertex, point of fate and destiny, indicates this is fated, unavoidable energy. There's an opportunity here to reprogram your unconscious thought patterns and beliefs, with Neptune 29 degrees Pisces and Saturn in conjunction, that may be blocking you from leveling up. This configuration is helping us reflect as we decide what to dissolve and what to let go of in order to transform and evolve into who we were destined to be, our highest potential. The tide is high, and we were holding on for so long, but now it's ready to go back out to sea, taking with it anything that no longer serves. Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are not only in conjunction, they are in conjunction with Neptune at the critical anaretic 29th, very final degree of not only Pisces but the entire zodiac, indicating a collective crisis of belief. This is the purge we've been feeling build up over the past few months, and the two will continue to work together through 2024, 2025, and 2026. In the days leading up to the Cancer new moon, Saturn and Neptune stationed retrograde together simultaneously within days of one another. This is huge symbolism, representing the collective shed of illusion and delusion. It's supporting powerful transformations as souls awaken and shed layers of ego, fostering what will be referred to one day as the Great Awakening. Many are feeling as though it's too late, bringing a now or never pressure into the mix. And I have to say, if there's something you feel you need to do, if you feel you need to apologize to someone, it is never too late to do so. It is never too late to do your part in clearing the karma. It doesn't matter whether or not they forgive you. It is never too late to try. Those fixed placements we thought incapable of changing, well, they may surprise you after all. It has been a challenging year for them. Miracles happen every day. Mercury opposite Pluto can be intense and dramatic in any sign, but especially along the Leo-Aquarius axis of opposition. This pits our current reality directly against our purpose, potential, dharma, or life path, Pluto and Aquarius. As we get to the root of our underlying issues, traumas, and patterns, and bring them into the light of consciousness for healing. Mercury in Leo is charismatic, bold, passionate, creative, and confident. Whenever Mercury transits Leo, it's a beautiful time to work on creative self-expression and your parenting or your leadership style. There's a tremendous opportunity to get in touch with your inner child as you navigate through the heavy energy of Cancer season and the Cancer new moon. The downside of Mercury in Leo is that it takes everything personally and tends to be more thin-skinned. We may be feeling more sensitive now than we are conscious of or used to. And no judgment, I have a lot of Leo placements. South Node conjunct Jupiter in Leo, with Pallas Athena in Leo, the Sun rising with my ascendant. The dogs have exited the chat. Uranus at the 5th degree, and my North Node of Fate and Destiny on the cusp of my 5th house. All of this carries big Leo energy. So I get it. It took me decades to shift out of this oversensitivity of Leo and into the detachment of Aquarius. Be mindful of taking things personally and slipping into narcissistic self-pity. Remember that everyone is going through challenges and difficulties right now, so it's definitely not personal. Even when someone is attacking you and it seems personal, it isn't. They would not notice anything in you if it wasn't reflecting something back to them that bothered them about themselves. I can't tell you how many bullies I've attracted through the years. growing up, and even through my 20s. Until I learned this lesson. Some Leo advice: you can't give your power away or dim your light to make anyone more comfortable in their shadow. Leo is the energy of royalty. Kings and queens do not step down from the throne to address their people. Additionally, watch for being too self-centered or self-interested, my way or the highway, arrogance, a tendency to exaggerate, inflate, dramatize, or intensify things, making mountains out of molehills, impulsiveness and impatience, overindulging, balancing creativity with practicality. Jupiter is in Gemini, which answers to Mercury, and Mercury in Leo carries the energy of the golden rule. Treat others as you would like to be treated in return. This goes for delivering feedback and criticism. Communicate and speak to others as you would want to be spoken to. Feed forward. Mercury will be in Leo for an extended time from July 2nd through July 25th, and then again from August 4th to September 9th. During the upcoming Mercury retrograde through both Virgo and Leo. This extended stay is essentially the universe telling us, hey, I want you to focus here for a bit. Mercury retrogrades through fire signs this year, which is all about our life force, identity, and passion. Mercury retrograde through Virgo and Leo will activate Virgo and Leo placements, and it will be prominent for Leo rising and Mercury-ruled people. Gemini and Virgo placements, especially Gemini and Virgo rising. We had Mercury retrograde through Virgo last year from August 23rd, 2023 to September 14th, 2023. I will also plug that video here for anyone who would like to catch up and review the energies. This will absolutely be a return to Mercury retrograde through Virgo of last year, and I made some very interesting predictions that are absolutely coming to light now, if you're curious. Venus was also retrograde through Leo, 28 to 12 degrees at this time, from July through September of 2023, so we'll be revisiting these themes. Whenever Mercury retrograde changes signs, as it's about to do, it indicates a major change of heart or direction, especially in the sign of Leo, which is associated with the 3rd and 4th chakras, the heart chakra. Meanwhile, Pluto is retrograde in the early degrees of Aquarius, which is the off with their heads energy of the French Revolution. I'm hearing, we're not gonna take it. This pits Mercury against Pluto several times in the future, along with a Mars retrograde coming on the horizon in December. Mercury in Leo, July 2nd through July 25th, therefore, is showing us what to be prepared for. Now I'm hearing, be prepared, from The Lion King. When Mercury retrogrades, August, September, and in December, January, February, when Mars retrogrades through Leo. Mars retrograde will also change signs, covering the territory on the cusp of Leo and Cancer, another indicator of a major change of heart or direction, especially for the divine masculine collective ruled by Mars. Mars in Cancer, where it's debilitated, can also bring national security matters to the forefront of our attention. So be on the lookout for that as we head into election territory this autumn and its aftermath this winter. The sun will be in Leo soon as well, from July 28th to August 23rd this year. And honestly, it can't get here soon enough. As a person with a lot of Leo energy and their natal moon and Mars in Gemini conjunct Aldebaran, more on that in a few, I've been looking forward to the combined energies of the Sun in Leo and Mars in Gemini. This is fantastic energy for showcasing one's talents and leadership qualities, and for using them in a way that inspires growth in others. I plan on working on quite a bit of music and singing, and maybe I'll even upload a cover. Jupiter and Aldebaran. Jupiter passes over the Eye of the Bull, fixed star Aldebaran, associated with the divine protective and abundant energies of the Archangel Michael in the first couple weeks of July. This is a once per every 12-year event. This is a star of success and abundance, and Aldebaran is said to be the luckiest star. It carries the energy of God consciousness and spiritual awakening. Since Jupiter is here, this spiritual awakening is affecting the entire collective. You can look to young leaders. Is it any surprise we're having our first canonization of a millennial pope? All month, as Jupiter passes over the Eye of the Bull, Aldebaran, This is illuminating knowledge that leads to abundance, which will unfold not immediately, but over the next 12 years. Simultaneously, we have Jupiter trine South Node in Libra, while the South Node activates the fixed star, bear with me on this one, Vindemiatrix, located 9 degrees 56 minutes, arc minutes of Libra, with a 2-degree orb. This fixed star is nicknamed the Grape Harvester and the Widowmaker, so I'll go with one of the two of those for short, indicating that we are purging and letting go of things with grace and ease. Collectively, we're experiencing a lot of detaching from desire, materialism, and instant gratification. The South Node on the Widowmaker could also indicate a separation or divorce from something, literal or metaphorical. Perhaps we're divorcing ourselves from the things, beliefs, and thoughts or paradigms that we are overly attached to, dependent on, or even codependent with in the sign of Libra in some way. Since there's a trine involved, it's happening in a smooth, natural way. So don't resist it or intensify it with any unnecessary drama or resistance. Mercury and Vertex in Leo. This is the energy of releasing something that we've already paid our karmic debts for, but that we allow to continue to block us on an unconscious level because we're holding, with our Cancer claws, onto it. And we've been holding on to it for quite some time now. We see the benefit in releasing it, and we can now do so with ease. Something that started a few years back in 2020, is coming back around for closure, for healing, and release. If you have anything aspecting this fixed star, stationed around 9 degrees 47 arc minutes of Gemini with a 2.5 degree orb, please drop a comment and let me know what placements and how it manifests in your life. I have both my natal moon directly on top of Aldebaran, with my natal Mars falling within the 2.5 degree orb territory, nearby 13 degrees Gemini. The South Node of Fate and Destiny is 10 degrees Libra, indicating we are coming into the home stretch and the final 6 months of South Node in Libra's karmic lessons. Additionally, after a 9-month sojourn through Virgo, Black Moon Lilith is now in Libra with the South Node. The effects of both Black Moon Lilith, the shadow or dark side of the moon, representing the shadow feminine, are patterns of self-disempowerment. And the South Node are patterns of karma passed on from generations. Co-present in Libra indicates major karmic clearing within relationships, values, and what we do for work. We also have Saturn and Neptune aligned in the final degrees of Pisces, stationing retrograde together in the days leading up to this Cancer new moon, working closely together to dissolve these tired old collective paradigms. We're releasing past versions of self that block our ability to access and express authentic individuality on the path to self-actualization. Neptune, 29 degrees Pisces, is about setting sail and letting go. Neptune represents our layers of unconscious programming seen on a collective or generational level. We're shedding tired, old paradigms from the Piscean age, learning we do not necessarily need a spiritual guide, guru, priest, or religious figure to maintain a close relationship with God, the universe, the divine, whatever we deem that to be. You are already divine. You were created in the image of something divine. Your only task as a human is to find a set of values to integrate and live by, and to treat others as you would have them treat you, embracing traits of hubris, humility, and grace along the way. This is how we embody Christ or God consciousness. As we let go, we have a tremendous opportunity to reprogram and transform. This serves to help us release any underlying fears, insecurities, or illusions of inadequacy as we prepare to set intentions under the Cancer new moon. We're coming into alignment of these energies as they unfold over the next 6 months and into January 2025, anchoring us into these new foundations and paradigms that we're laying for the age of Aquarius. It's still only the dawn of the age of Aquarius. The Pluto and Aquarius generation, born now through 2044, will carry the torch for us into 2100, should we not destroy each other and the planet before then. Mars and Uranus on Algol. Simultaneously, Mars and Uranus align in the weeks between the Cancer new moon and the second Capricorn full moon on July 21st on fixed star Algol, the demon star, the Gorgon Medusa's head. This is the energy of losing one's head, which you are cautioned against during this time. Let's explore fixed star Algol, and then I'll dive into the archetypal energies of Mars closing in on Uranus, both in their signs of debilitation. Algol and the myth of Medusa. Algol is situated on the Perseus constellation, which is located in the zodiac of Taurus. This notorious demon star is said to represent the center of Medusa's head, or third eye, and is closely connected with curses, blindness, both literal and metaphorical, and her mythology. I feel a special connection to this myth, as it was one of my favorites growing up. You might have sensed my ability to take a topic and research it obsessively. I do have my Gemini moon in the 8th house, after all, with Mars nearby in conjunction pulling it, but in the 9th house, pulling it into the positivity of the 9th house. This gives me a strong Scorpio flavor to my energy. Additionally, I'm of the Pluto in Scorpio generation, with Pluto in rulership in Scorpio. If you're a millennial, hate to break it to you, but you are a Scorpio, no matter when your sun sign falls. We're the first generation to need work that's aligned with soul purpose, and we're carrying the torch for the younger generations. Beginning in the 4th grade, at around age 9-10, I became obsessed with Greek mythology. From 4th through 7th grades, I used the original Clash of the Titans movie, which tells the story of Perseus, Andromeda, Pegasus, and Medusa. Later, my dad and I would watch this movie. Literally, my dad and I would watch this movie all the time, and it continues to be quite nostalgic for me. As a little girl, I had a head full of curly hair, and I used to run screaming bloody, I don't think I can say this word, so I'm going to say red rum instead, whenever my mom came to comb me. So she would call me Medusa. I've even played the role of Medusa for Halloween. In Greek mythology, Medusa was a gorgon, whose curly head of hair was made of snakes. She was fabled to be a terrifying, monstrous sight. Anyone who laid eyes on her was literally petrified and turned to stone. However, after Perseus severs Medusa's head, it becomes a powerful weapon in battle, capable of defeating the Kraken. Medusa wasn't always a monster, though. Her journey actually began as an oracle goddess with outstanding beauty, and she was turned into a gorgon by the jealous partner of Ares, Mars, goddess of war, Pallas Athena. After defeating the Kraken, Perseus gave the head to Athena to use in battle. Now, I do not condone in fear-mongering, but Algol is not something to take lightly. The last eclipse we had on Algol on November 19th, 2021, brought record deaths, thousands that week, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Algol is often referred to as the eye of the demon, and it has a nefarious tie to evil, pain, suffering, death, addiction, intoxication, and tragedy. Algol represents violence, death, misfortune, alcoholism, addiction, mental illness, but it can also represent power and immense wealth potential. Algol is often highly aspected in the charts of entrepreneurs and radical artists. Both Picasso and Princess Diana had Algol featured heavily in their charts. Once we learn to work with the intense energy, we can harness it and use it to accomplish great success. Here are some of the positive, possible manifestations with Algol. Awakening into one's personal power and magnetism. Experiencing transformative experiences that help one to evolve into higher states of consciousness. Being divinely protected and able to protect or care for those that are in need, whether those are loved ones or underdogs. Great power may find you in this life. This is where willpower to choose light over shadow and good over evil comes into the equation. Bringing unorthodox or revolutionary ideas into the world. Keeping one's mental health and or any repetitive or obsessive thoughts in check. Losing one's mind can be a metaphorical decapitation. When Mars aligns with Uranus, it presents a seeding moment for the future. In a fixed sign, especially when where both planets are debilitated or experiencing weakened expression, the shift is through our stubbornness. We may also be seeding a more sustainable approach to business as we reflect on the exchange of our energy and our efforts and the return or ROI on that. With Mars in the picture, there can also be a sexual transcendence through passionate intimacy. There may be sudden rushes of energy or breakthroughs and impulsive or rash actions. This is of the nature of both planets, especially when they are conjoined. Electric yang energy and sudden releases of energy. There may be sudden eruptions of anger and accidents. Watch for being easily driven to anger or triggered. This is essentially a battle cry that can release stuck or pent-up energy that's needed to defy the status quo when channeled correctly. Uranus activating Algol by conjunction can mean the cost of living leading to frustration, protests, and boycotts as we realize the power we have and where we choose to spend our money and do our banking. Taurus. On Thursday, July 12th, Mars and Uranus come within conjunction territory, exacting on July 15th and lasting through July 18th. The exact alignment occurs between 1:49 and 4:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just prior to the break of dawn over Philadelphia, the nation's first capital and my hometown, making Philadelphia and the USA a powerful potential hotspot over the next few years for war and disaster. The exact alignment of Mars and Uranus can be visible with a pair of binoculars, should you be interested in getting up early enough to see it. Before Mars can conjoin Uranus exactly, Mars must first cover the territory where Jupiter and Uranus aligned back at the end of April, activating the energy and inspiring us into action come mid-July, just after Mars and Uranus align on Algol and the corresponding final Capricorn full moon of 2024. At the time of the second Capricorn full moon, Mars will prepare to leave its sign of debilitation, Taurus, for Gemini, bringing a fierce desire to communicate and create from the heart just in time for Leo season 2024. Happy Mars return for all of you who have Mars in Taurus or Mars in Gemini. If you have your Mars in Taurus, feel free to comment below how this is affecting you. It would also be important to note that this is happening exactly halfway between the new and full moon during what's called the first quarter moon. That is an opportunity to make pivots and act on what we're planting. I wouldn't act now. I would wait until Mars. Right now, Mars in Taurus experiences delays, obstacles, and frustration, so I wouldn't push too hard through that energy. I would just sit back and try to work through it very slowly and with a lot of grace. But as Mars gets closer to Gemini, you can start to make pivots to the goals and intentions that you're setting under the Cancer new moon with those sudden changes going on around you. It'll make more sense at that time. The alignment of two great malefics, Mars and Uranus, with Mars delivering karma via separation, injury, illness, and accident, and Uranus delivering karma via sudden changes and events, can be incredibly disruptive and explosive energy, especially in shadow. It happens once but every 2 years and usually involves taking a stand or fighting for something that we believe in. It can instill a strong urge to break free from what limits or restricts. On a conscious level, it's the energy needed to question, challenge, and ultimately disrupt the status quo. It can bring the loss of a father or brother due to some tragic event, so be very careful. In the sign of Taurus, it can indicate social or economic disaster leading to competition for control and access to resources, including food, water, oil, gas, and money. Mars in Taurus experiences delays and frustrations, and it really needs rest. So I advise you plant some roots. Enjoy a staycation. Taurus rules the throat and the throat chakra, so you're advised to say less, not more, and avoid wasting energy over explaining because it'll just be misunderstood anyway. Watch what you're voicing and putting out there. It can be very easy to be misunderstood and misinterpreted, so be mindful of your words, especially with Mercury in Leo, where what we say tends to be not only noticed, but remembered forever. Mars in Taurus in shadow is obsessed with money and has a tendency to use it to control and manipulate others. So there may be a feeling of this on a collective level, Work with the energy, not against it. Under this alignment, powerful leaders have the potential to fall from grace due to greed and egotism as their past sins, deceit, lies, manipulation, fraudulent activity come to light. This is especially true for individuals with prominent personal placements in harsh aspect to Algol, by conjunction, opposition, or square. We may be receiving mixed or confusing messages at the hands of politicians who say one thing, yet do another when we're not watching. Historically speaking, the August 17, 1945 alignment of Mars and Uranus, which was also in Taurus, coincided with the bomb droppings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The 2002 alignment of Mars and Uranus coincided with the UK foot and mouth epidemic, and the Mars-Uranus alignment of the early 1960s coincided with higher than average occurrence of solar flare activity. More on that in a bit. These are just a few examples. Through consciousness, we can work with the energy, and guiding the collective through this task is precisely why I started this YouTube channel in the first place, by translating the language of the archetypal symbolism of the stars. This energy is ultimately about cutting something toxic or monstrous out of our lives. Usually, just as Perseus severs off the head of the Gorgon monster Medusa, I'm being cautious and creative with my words here so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't censor me for using any banned buzzwords. We're cutting ties with a toxic or monstrous influence. This could be an actual monster, like a sociopathic or narcissistic partner, or a metaphysical monster, such as addiction or poor self-discipline. We must ruthlessly and unapologetically remove that influence from our lives, because just on the other side of that decision is an explosive transformation and the potential to tap into wealth and power. Algol is a star of great wealth, and once we learn to harness its energy, we can tap into its powers and full potential. You do have free will, after all. For example, President Joe Biden has Algol heavily aspected in his chart. So does Donald Trump. President Biden was born with his natal sun, Venus, and Mercury directly opposite fixed star Algol, therefore activated by opposition, a challenging position. Is it any wonder that this man and his family are coming into their karma after a lifetime of deceit and corruption? I think not. I feel bad for the guy in his current state, but I do believe he has earned his karma. I predicted this prior to witnessing the abysmal debate, and sometime around mid-July, or around July 15th, something bad may happen to this man that removes him from the presidential running. The political party he supports is facing some harsh truths that they may very well lose this election unless they replace him with another candidate, and they do so quickly. Additionally, Joe Biden is of the Pluto in Leo, baby boomer, the greatest American generation we have seen in some time. Pluto in Aquarius, directly opposite, marks the time in one's life when our time here on this 3D Earth is over. The exact Pluto opposition will occur for him in 2026 through 2028. Donald Trump also has Algol conjunct his midheaven, the part of his chart ruling his public reputation and career. This means that the highest part of his chart is within 1 degree of Algol, very visible part of his chart. Comment below what you think this could mean. I'm curious. This places Algol directly opposite his IC, or his nadir, the true, most private self, which would be activated by opposition to Algol. His Mars, the lifeblood of a masculine, located 26 degrees Leo, forms an exact challenging square to Algol. Mars is rising with his ascendant in his 12th house. It is absolutely where his fiery Aries arrogance emerges quite visibly in his personality. This formation is called a fixed T-square, and if we factor in his descendant falling exactly 26 degrees Aquarius, it makes this a grand fixed cross. This chart placement is equal parts challenging as it is powerful. One of the major downsides is the concentration of fixed energies makes it very difficult for a person with this placement or chart pattern to change or adapt. Reactions at this time can be disproportionate to the events that triggered them, so we must not allow the shadow to consume us or allow us to lose our minds. Avoid giving into overconsumption and impulsiveness driven by passion. Now, I have to say before I move on, I try to keep it not political on this page, You probably can't tell how I feel about either one of those candidates from what I just shared with you. I will share with you I was once a member of the Democratic Party, and in the year 2021, I changed parties. I'll keep that a secret for now. And just because I changed parties doesn't mean I'm voting for that party, by the way. Mars experiences weakened expression in Taurus, and so does Uranus. This is because Mars is the traditional ruler of the sign directly opposite Taurus, Scorpio. And because Uranus, the sign ruling Aquarius energy and sudden change, is particularly uncomfortable in Taurus, a fixed earth sign known for its stubborn resistance to change. What are the perpetual cycles in our life when it comes to budgeting, eating, housing, needing instant gratification to elicit a feeling? Taurus is a very sensory-based sign that relates to the world in a practical way through its 5 senses and related sensory organs, and relating interpersonally. There may be instability in our relationships as they fall apart. There may be a collective lack of empathy or understanding, so don't go seeking it externally. A weakened Uranus contributes to a collective feeling of powerlessness, but don't fall for the illusion. You are far more powerful than you realize and think. On a global scale, we're witnessing heightened rivalry, competition, and paranoia with various countries in bidding wars over control of resources. The pairing of Mars-Uranus has ties to technology, electricity, and power grids. This can bring up issues of speed and volatility to said power grids, and even water treatment plants, etc. We may see hacking efforts that affect these vulnerable networks and systems. Protect your accounts and personal data at this time because it may be quite vulnerable. There is a very real chance that some major event, such as a cyber attack or major solar flare or coronal mass ejection, that could affect our dependency on electricity and power grids. There could also be revisits of AI and technology that's been released over the past 2 years, such as a reversal of a reliance on self-checkout over human cashiers. Uranus rules things like electricity and has ties to Pluto and Aquarius as the modern ruler of Aquarius energy. Breakthroughs and innovation in technology and increased cost in the electricity sector. Volatile power grids, increased likelihood of extreme weather events and natural disasters. Earthquakes, typhoons, hurricanes, cyclones, tornadoes, wildfire, and extreme heat. We are due for a record hurricane season with record high water temperatures in the Gulf Coast, a perfect breeding ground for intense storms. It can also bring an increased likelihood of explosions in the sky and space, and increased solar flare activity. In the days leading up to the new moon in Cancer, we had a lot of solar flare activity, which is of the nature of this Mars-Uranus conjunction. Pluto is in Aquarius for the first time since the French and American Revolutions, and both the 1960s and the French and American Revolutions marked time periods where record solar flare activity was recorded. Both time periods marked an era where people collectively band together to defy the status quo. Mars here adds the warrior archetype. This can lead to an increase of conflict involving the police, military, and large organizations such as the European Union and NATO. In the sign of Taurus, this can indicate volatility to banking and food, especially as we see an increased draw toward more controllable forms of banking, including digital currencies and a push toward more electronic wallets in banking. There could be a rise of a social media platform that becomes the dominant platform over the next decade. Drop in the comments which platform has your vote. Mine obviously goes to YouTube, currently the second most searched site after Google. LinkedIn is pretty dope too. 50% of internet users, it's probably more like 65% at this point, have a LinkedIn profile, which is why I do a lot of external marketing and networking groups over there. TikTok is favored by Generation Z and Alpha. Instagram is favored by millennials and older Generation Zers, while Gen X, older millennials, and savvy members of both the silent Pluto and Virgo generation and a sprinkling of boomers can be found dominating Facebook. One's marketing efforts all depend on your target audience, after all. In the sign of Taurus, we may also see banks crashing, continued high inflation, and a change to the value of the US dollar. We're already seeing it. On June 9th, 2024, Saudi Arabia ended the petrodollar deal with the U.S., initiated 50 years prior on June 8, 1974, and they elected not to renew it. While the U.S. dollar was never backed by oil, if trading were to shift away and into a different currency, the effect could potentially dramatically reduce the demand for and resulting value of the American dollar. I guess time will tell. The effects of Mars in Taurus include experiencing slowed or delayed progress that brings frustration and depression. If you're feeling this way, you're not alone. Several of my clients have reached out expressing as such. Mars in Taurus wants rest. Remember to attract. Don't chase. This is incredibly chaotic energy, so I recommend taking a break from caffeine and stimulants. You will not need them, and they may overwhelm and overstimulate your system, even in small amounts. On July 20th, Mars will enter Gemini, bringing fierce, determined communication, so we'll notice this inspired action taking off around the next full moon and in time for Leo season. Let's dive into some chart patterns. We have a grand cardinal cross, Sun, Moon, and Venus, 14 to 22 degrees of Cancer, directly opposite Ceres, 14 degrees. It's an exact opposition. With the asteroids, they're activated when it's exact, and that's why we're calling this a grand cardinal cross. This is crossing off or squaring off against the nodal axis. The south node 10 degrees Libra versus the north node 10 degrees Aries. This is a major push-pull of energy, past versus present. We're pulled between where we've been and where we would like to be. This is symbolizing a collective transition from old ways of being and into the paradigms necessary for a new Earth. And trust me, I get it. The opposition occurring between Mercury, conjunct Vertex, point of fate and destiny, in Leo, opposite Pluto, in Aquarius, are aspecting my natal nodal axis, with Pluto conjoining my natal north node of fate and destiny in the early degrees of Aquarius, and Mercury conjoining my natal south node and Jupiter in the first 10 degrees of Leo. Simultaneously, the south node is stationed right between my natal ascendant, 12 degrees Libra, and chart ruler Venus, 8 degrees Libra, on the Widowmaker, and still coming for my Mercury, 4 degrees Libra, after having already activated my natal Sun, 14 degrees Libra, which is in an exact trine to this Cancer new moon and fixed star Sirius. I am getting hit by this karmic clearing in several different ways. Long story short, we have a grand water trine between the Sun, Moon, and Venus aligned between 15 and 22 degrees Cancer, Saturn and Neptune, 19 to 29 degrees Cancer, and Pallas Athena, 19 degrees Scorpio. Typically, with the asteroids, we consider them when they're in exact aspect to another planet, so in this case, we can consider it a grand water trine, because Saturn and Pallas Athena are forming an exact trine to one another, 19 degrees of their respective signs. Specifically with the new moon and Venus trine Saturn and Neptune, this is super supportive and supporting our healing. Some additional aspects to explore. We have Chiron square the new moon, facilitating and supporting the healing of our deepest abandonment and rejection wounds stemming from childhood and patterns of generational trauma passed down by how we were parented. Mars trine new moon and Mars sextile Saturn. The combined energies of Mars in Taurus and Cancer energy can be prone to depression and holding on to things, including the stubborn or more fixed qualities of our personalities, since Mars is in a fixed Earth sign and closing in on Uranus. This is the energy of holding on to resentments and becoming emotionally constipated, so to speak. Seek to actively forgive yourself and others so that you can release grudges and resentments before they become a poison unto yourself. How to work with the energy. The new moon in Cancer can be an incredibly emotional time. Cancer season is a time to put family matters first. Spend time near water and use water for cleansing. This will bring you answers and peace. I get downloads and flashes of ideas all the time when I'm in the shower, bath, or swimming. I was a career swimmer. Cancer energy rules freshwater sources like lakes and rivers, so this is ideal. But saltwater heals all wounds, and we do have a lot of energy in Pisces, Saturn conjunct Neptune, ruling the oceans and salty water. Review your goals. Have they changed? Allow someone to get a little closer to you. Practice meditation to rediscover your center and to silence or banish any insecurities. Now I'd like to review the recent astrological history and introduce what's coming on the astrological horizon. Gemini season put the spotlight of energy on Gemini's ruling planet Mercury, which at the beginning of Gemini season was in Taurus, and then later on was in rulership in Gemini. This symbolically helped us to bridge the energy as Jupiter transitioned from the late degrees of Taurus into the early degrees of Gemini, amplifying the energy, and with Venus's help, creating chaotically busy social schedules from late May until the 4th of July holiday and Cancer new moon. I think by about now we're probably tired and we're ready to rest. Halfway between then and the Cancer new moon, we had the first of 2 back-to-back full moons in the sign of Capricorn. This is special, most notably because it's the first of 2 back-to-back full moons in the sign of Capricorn, making the second one, falling on July 21st, a blue moon. Let's talk about what a blue moon is and dispel some common misconceptions really quickly. Have you ever heard the phrase, once in a blue moon, or when pigs fly? Well, a blue moon can mean anything improbable or rare, such as having 2 consecutive back-to-back full moons in the same sign. So technically, if you call this a blue moon, I won't call you out, and it's okay. However, technically speaking, because the solar calendar has 11 more days than the lunar calendar, after a while, roughly every 2 to 3 years, we get an extra or a bonus 13th full moon within a calendar year. If you did not know that there is a full moon every month, I hope you will walk away knowing that after this video, at the very least. Technically, a blue moon is defined as one of the following: the second full moon falling within a calendar month. This happens once every 32 months, the most recent of which occurred last August 2023. 2023 featured 13 full moons in a calendar year, so the definition absolutely checks out. The second definition is the third full moon falling in a season. Since we only have 12 full moons in 2024, 1 per month, and since this is only the second full moon of the summer season, not the third, according to the technical definition, this 7/21 full moon is not a blue moon. You can choose to interpret it how you will, but hopefully this helps explain why some astrologers are calling it a blue moon and others are not. If you would like to rewind back to the blue moon of 2023 and the time leading up to it, I encourage you to do so, because we will absolutely be revisiting these energies this summer. I would rewind all the way back to the new moon in Cancer 2023, which I'll plug in as an end card here, and you can start there. Then, I would proceed to the double full moons falling in the month of August 2023. The first fell on the first of the month, on August 1st, 2023, and the second full moon, the blue moon, fell on the very last day, on August 31st, 2023. You may also want to review Venus retrograde through Leo summer 2023, as this energy will be revisited this August through September 2024, and again December 2024 through February 2025. Additionally, where the second full moon occurs, 29 degrees Capricorn, is precisely where Pluto is headed to deliver one final blow, early September to November 2024. And I do believe it's coming for the US economy. Whenever Pluto is at 29 degrees of an Earth sign, it affects the economy in some way. Mastering Capricorn energy means learning to be realistic about how much time and energy we can invest into something without burning the candle at both ends and completely fizzling out. The first Capricorn full moon occurred 1 degree 6 minutes Capricorn. Back-to-back full moons in the same sign is a big deal, and it's essentially like the universe saying, pay attention here, I don't want you to miss this. The first full moon, in the very early degrees of its sign, indicates the story is still unfolding, while the latter full moon at the final anaretic critical 29th degree point indicates a massive collective transformation is unfolding, especially since from that position, Pluto would be working with the full moon by conjunction. Sextile Neptune, also 29 degrees, and trine Uranus, immediately following Uranus's conjunction with Mars mid-July, 26 degrees Taurus, the location of demon star Algol. Because this full moon happens 1 degree 6 arc minutes of Capricorn, this means we are just starting to access a new level of awareness which will progressively deepen, with patience, during the time frame between the first full moon on June 21st and the upcoming one, July 21st, representing the completion of a personal and collective maturation journey deeply connected with Pluto's transit through Capricorn, which started way back in 2008, bringing us Generation Alpha. Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius is going to be conjunct with July's full moon in Capricorn, intensifying the energy and bringing themes of deep personal transformation. The combined effects of moon in Capricorn with Pluto there, it would have like a strong Scorpio moon flavor, which is super intense and dramatic, emotionally intense. People who have their moon in Scorpio, one of my brothers has this, it usually indicates a very intense and emotionally needy mother. And that checks out for our family. Full moons in Capricorn answer to ruling planet Saturn, which is the only planet to station retrograde in June, and therefore a key planet to watch all month and into July 2024. Saturn is Chronos, all about karma, rules, regulations, restriction, isolation, structure, and boundaries. Saturn and Capricorn are all about mastery, but first and foremost, they will require mastery of the self. Full moons mark the midpoint of the lunar month and represent a moment of culmination and completion, the seeds for which were planted 6 months prior during the corresponding Capricorn new moon. I'll plug that video here for you to review. It's quite long, but it's quite good. When the moon is full, she forms a 180-degree angle with the sun from our perspective here on Earth. In astrology, this is an opposition, and it's connected with themes of polarization, dynamic tension, and a feeling of being pulled into opposing or conflicting directions. From this position, the light of the sun, representing the light of our awareness and conscious minds, fully illuminates the moon, associated with our deeper, subconscious, intuitive, and emotional worlds. Full moons bring clarity, and they present opportunities to access new realizations and perspectives, understanding something previously uncertain or unclear. Full moons bring into the spotlight the dynamic tension created by two seemingly opposing yet complementary energies of the zodiac, and they ask us to observe how we balance and harmonize them. June's full moon and July's full moon play out along this Capricorn-Cancer axis of opposition. This is also referred to as the career-family axis, both Cancer and Capricorn being connected with our past, heritage, upbringing, and the way we have been programmed or conditioned from our culture, our society, and our families of origin. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Both are connected to the inner child, maternal lineage, and our inner mother archetypes. Cancer and our moon placements show us how we were nurtured, and we, in turn, nurture others, while Capricorn and its ruler Saturn has everything to do with our primary disciplinarians and boss or authority figures, the adult parts of our psyche and inner critical parent voice, which are connected with our relationship with our father and main authority figure of our upbringing, and with how we go out into the world and assert our dominance. The Cancer-Capricorn axis has a lot to do with our ability to emotionally self-regulate and our self-parenting style. Capricorn corresponds to our core conditioning, the beliefs, societal values, and thought patterns that we've internalized from a young age that has now created the inner structures and walls that keep us limited and disconnected from our authentic selves. This event is an opportunity, this full moon, to gain awareness, the double full moon, of what structures or boundaries need to be dismantled and dissolved, and what structures need instead to be created to support our growth and evolution, as well as our emotional health. The Cancer-Capricorn axis of opposition correlates, therefore, to our emotional maturation and with how we bridge the gap and create both emotional and material safety within our lives. My neighbors must be back in town. Full moon in Capricorn, taking greater responsibility for our emotions. The full moon in Capricorn presents an opportunity to reflect on how we emotionally self-regulate and essentially parent ourselves. This event is an opportunity to gain awareness and release some of the confines of our conditioning, especially as it relates to our emotional self-regulation, our vulnerability, our avoidance, addictions, and workaholic patterns, and our need for nurturing. The moon is traditionally debilitated in Capricorn, as she is at home in the opposite sign of Cancer. This is an invitation to observe in what ways we are used to not honoring our emotions, and what messages we received from our culture, society, or family of origin around emotional expression, which is still often associated with weakness. We'll have an opportunity to face the ways we repress our emotions or try to feign being strong when we're actually feeling quite vulnerable and scared. The back-to-back Capricorn full moons in June and July 2024 are opportunities to practice holding space for our emotions while at the same time taking greater personal responsibility for them and our triggers as we transmute and work through the energy, rather than projecting them and placing the blame outwardly or making their regulation somebody else's problem, affecting that person's peace. Taking accountability for our emotions might also mean allowing them to be seen and witnessed. If we are used to running, avoiding, hiding, or suppressing these emotions, our healing may require allowing others to hold space for us as we learn to process them. You're invited to take the next step in emotional maturation by recognizing what is out of balance in your relationship with your emotions and moving toward the opposite end of the spectrum as we find balance, return to center, and restore harmony and peace. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed the coverage of the Cancer New Moon 2024. If you took anything away from this video, I would like to challenge you to please like this video. Make sure your notification bell icon is turned on. If you know anyone who you think would benefit from the content, it would really help to share the video. That helps push the video out in the YouTube algorithm. All of those are also ways to give me feedback and let me know that you're watching and that you enjoy the content and you want me to make more of it. If you liked this video, you may enjoy these additional videos. Please also comment. I would love to hear where you're tuning in from, what placements you have, especially in the fixed stars and the key areas that we mentioned in this video. Thank you, I love you, stay safe, and have a wonderful summer. We will talk very soon.